All right, so today we're going to be diving into the Medibank data breach.
Yeah,
Remember that happened back in 2022? It's back in the headlines.
big time.
And we're going to figure out why it still matters even now, all this time later.
Yeah, this wasn't just your average data breach.
Right.
It wasn't, just a few names and emails leaked or something like that.
Yeah.
This was really serious stuff.
Yeah. If you were a customer of Medibank or their subsidiary,
Right.
imagine your entire medical history out there in the open.
Exactly.
That's doctor's notes, diagnoses, treatments, medications.
It's about as personal as it gets.
Really scary stuff.
Yeah.
And the Australian Information Commissioner, the OAIC.
Yeah, Australia's data privacy watchdog.
Right, the watchdog. They're taking Medibank to court.
Yep, they're not letting this one slide.
So this isn't just a slap on the wrist then?
No.
What are they actually trying to do here?
They're saying that Medibank was negligent. On a
Actually-
huge scale. Basically, they're arguing that. As a
Yeah.
company with so many resources, Medibank didn't take the proper steps to protect this really sensitive data.
And what kind of penalty are we looking at here?
Oh, the penalties could be massive,
Okay.
potentially huge.
All right, so you said proper steps.
Yeah.
What does that even mean? What should they have been doing?
Well, you have to think about it.
Yeah.
This is medical records of millions of people.
Yeah.
The OAIC is saying that their security measures should have reflected that responsibility.
So what kinds of things specifically are we talking about here?
Multi-factor authentication on all their systems would be a good start.
Okay, so like when you log into your bank account
Yeah.
and they text you a code,
Exactly.
so that even if someone got your password, they still wouldn't be able to get in?
Yeah, that's just one layer, though.
Right.
They should have had better password policies, too.
Okay.
Not letting employees get away with password 123.
Yeah, makes sense.
And, of course, access controls within their systems.
So not everyone needs to see everything.
Precisely. Not everyone who works there needs access to every single medical record.
Makes sense.
Restricting access is super important.
So tighter controls and better tech, basically making their data storage a fortress.
And being proactive, not just reacting after something bad has happened.
Right, thinking ahead of the curve.
The OAIC is saying they should have been constantly looking for vulnerabilities
Okay.
and adapting their security to new threats.
So it's a really high standard.
Very high.
And that's reflected in the fines.
Absolutely.
We're talking, what, $2.2 million per person?
That's right. Per person affected.
And there were almost 10 million people caught up in this.
Yeah, that's right.
That's astronomical.
It is, the total fine could be over 21 billion Australian dollars.
Wow.
It remains to be seen whether the full amount will be imposed, but the message is clear.
Right.
Protecting sensitive data is not optional.
It's not just Medibank making a mistake. This sets a precedent for how all companies need to be thinking about data security.
Absolutely, especially with so much personal information online these days.
It's a whole new world.
Yeah, this is the reality now.
So what does this mean for the average person?
Well, that's where things get really interesting and potentially a bit scary.
Okay, how so?
Well, this case really shows just how vulnerable our data is, even when it's with companies that should be keeping it secure.
So the big question everyone's asking is, could this have been prevented?
Yeah, and what does it tell us about how other companies are handling our information?
Right, because Medibank isn't the only one that has our data.
Absolutely. These are the million-dollar questions.
Yeah.
And to get the answers, we need to take a closer look at what exactly went wrong here.
All right, let's do it then. What did the OAIC find out in their investigation?
Well, they didn't just focus on the technical stuff.
Okay.
They looked at Medibank's whole approach to data security,
Right.
their culture, their processes, even their training programs.
So it's more than just having the right firewalls and encryption.
Yeah, it's kind of like having this high security vault.
Yeah.
But then you leave the blueprints and the key codes just lying around.
Yeah, I get it.
Technology is just one piece of the puzzle.
Right.
The OAIC is saying that Medibank's whole attitude towards data security needed to change.
Okay, so that phrase, reasonable steps,
Right.
it's really about a company's mindset.
Exactly. It's not just about checking boxes.
Yeah.
For example, the OAIC found that Medibank didn't really have systems in place to identify potential risks.
And given the sensitivity of the data, that's a big deal.
Huge. It's like driving a truck full of explosives through a school zone.
Whoa. Okay, that's a pretty intense analogy.
But you get the idea.
Yeah, so it's about being proactive, thinking about what could go wrong.
Exactly. Not just reacting after a disaster.
Right. And then there's the human element, too.
Oh, absolutely.
You can have the best tech in the world,
Yeah.
But if your employees aren't trained properly,
Right.
if they're falling for phishing scams or using weak passwords, it's all for nothing.
Exactly. The OAIC wants companies to invest in security awareness for all their employees.
So make it part of the company culture.
Yeah, from the CEO down to the interns,
Yeah.
everyone needs to understand how important this is.
Okay, so it's not just an IT problem. It's a business-wide issue.
It really is.
Yeah.
And the thing is, this case sets a precedent.
Okay. How so?
The OAIC is basically saying that companies can't just say, oh, we tried our best.
Right.
They have to prove that they actually did everything they could
So it's not just about doing something. It's about doing enough.
and being able to show it.
Yeah, proving it.
That's the game changer here.
So companies need to be constantly assessing their security,
Yeah.
thinking about threats, investing in safeguards.
And if there is a breach,
Yeah.
they need to be ready to answer some tough questions.
About whether they really did everything they could to prevent it.
Exactly.
This is a serious wake-up call for businesses.
It is, and it's not just Australia.
Right.
Data privacy is a global issue.
Yeah?
Regulators around the world are watching this case.
So what does this mean for other companies? Are we going to see more lawsuits and fines?
Hard to say for sure.
Okay.
But one thing is clear. The stakes are higher now.
Yeah.
Companies can't afford to ignore data security anymore.
So will they actually step up and do what's needed to protect our data?
That's the big question.
Yeah, is this a turning point or just another headline that people forget about?
Only time will tell.
Okay, well, we've talked about the breach, the investigation, the potential fallout for Medibank,
Right.
but let's bring it back to our listeners.
Yeah.
What can we as individuals learn from all of this?
That's a great question.
Because it's easy to feel powerless
I know what you mean.
when you hear about these huge data breaches.
It can feel like it's just a part of life now.
Right, like there's nothing we can do.
But actually, there are things we can do to protect ourselves.
Really? So we're not completely at the mercy of these companies?
Not at all.
Oh.
There are definitely steps you can take to be proactive.
Okay, so what are some of those steps? Okay, so let's talk about what we can actually do.
Yeah,
It's easy to feel helpless after hearing about all this.
I know what you mean.
Like it's just a part of life now.
But honestly, even small things can make a difference.
Okay.
You can really improve your own security.
And it's not just about inconvenience, is it?
No,
It's about serious stuff like identity theft and fraud.
exactly. With all that information out there, criminals can pretend to be you,
Right.
take out loans in your name,
Yeah.
open credit cards.
It could take years to fix that.
It really could.
So this reasonable steps idea,
Yeah.
it's not just about protecting the data while it's with the company.
Right.
It's about preventing that nightmare for people afterward.
Absolutely, companies need to be thinking about that.
Yeah.
The potential for identity theft.
Right.
Do they have a plan to help victims?
Yeah, like what happens after a breach?
Are they offering credit monitoring or identity theft protection?
Those things are important.
They really are.
It's like that saying, an
Yeah.
ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Exactly.
We focus so much on reacting to breaches, but how do we stop them in the first place?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And there's no easy answer.
Right.
But this case shows that companies need to go beyond just the technical stuff.
So more than just firewalls and antivirus software.
Right. They need plans for when things go wrong,
Okay.
ways to communicate clearly with people, and a real commitment to helping the victims.
So taking responsibility.
Yeah, for the data and for the people affected.
And that's something we as consumers need to demand.
Absolutely. Ask questions,
Yeah.
read their privacy policies.
Yeah.
Don't just hand over your data without thinking about it.
We have more power than we think.
We do.
So let's get practical. What can our listeners do right now?
Okay, first of all, strong, unique passwords.
I know everyone says that.
I know, but it's still so important.
Yeah.
Don't use the same password for everything.
And turn on multi-factor authentication everywhere you can.
Yes, that extra layer of security makes a huge difference.
It's like a bodyguard for your accounts.
Exactly. And be careful about what you share online. Think twice before you give out sensitive information.
Good advice.
And watch out for those phishing scams.
Right, those emails or texts trying to trick you.
Exactly.
I know it can feel overwhelming.
Yeah,
But even doing a few of these things will help.
absolutely.
It's a good reminder that we're not powerless.
We're not. This Medibank case is a wake-up call.
Yeah.
But it's also a call to action.
Yeah.
We can learn from this and protect ourselves.
And demand better from companies.
Exactly.
Well, this has been a pretty intense deep dive,
It has.
but hopefully it's been helpful for our listeners.
I hope so too.
Knowledge is power.
It really is. The more we know, the better prepared we are.
And remember, we'll have links in the show notes to
Great.
resources where you can learn more about data security.
Good idea.
Stay vigilant, stay informed, and stay safe out there.
That's the best advice.
Well, that's all for today's deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
Until next time.